I only went back to Silent Hill because of the letter. A simple envelope, no return address. Inside, one sheet of paper with 4 words. I'm still waiting. Signed, Lydia. But Lydia's been dead for 3 years. How could she possibly have written this? I didn't know what to think. We grew up together in Silent Hill, on the north side of town, before my family had to move away. Lydia stayed. The last time I saw her, she was crying in the passenger seat of my car, begging me not to leave. 2 months later, her body washed up on Toluca Lake. They called it an accident. I didn't go to the funeral. But that letter, it was in her handwriting, was dragging me back. I arrived just after midnight. The town sign that once read, "Welcome to Silent Hill," was so weathered, the paint looked like dried blood. Fog rolled across the road, thick enough that my headlights couldn't cut it. The air smelled like rain and rust. The streets were empty. No cars, no people. Just the slow hiss of the fog on this once busy town. Hollow Street was not how I remembered it all. Boarded up shops, cracked pavement, and the old movie theater with the now playing letters, cracked and old. Even though this all was a terrifying sight to see, the town you grew up in looking so abandoned and decrepit, something was wrong. More wrong than the current situation. The buildings leaned in towards the street like they were listening. Windows seemed darker than the night around them. Then I heard it. Metal scraping against pavement. It came from the alley next to the theater. It was a dragging sound, slow and deliberate. The fog moved like it was being pushed aside by something big. I told myself to leave, but my legs carried me forward, out of curiosity to see what was going on. In the alley, I saw a figure hunched over, its back rising and falling with heavy breaths. I heard a terrible wheezing sound coming from whatever it was. Looking at it, its arms looked too long at the ends, something like bent steel bars that were scraping against the ground. Its head turned when it heard me. The thing straightened up, and the world seemed to tilt. Its face, or where a face should have been, was covered by a sheet of metal bolted into its skull. No eyes, no mouth, just a disgusting display of metal. I was not going to stick around. I ran. The streets changed as I did. The buildings were warping. The asphalt was peeling up to reveal rusted grates and chains. The fog grew darker, almost black, and the sound of something heavy moving followed close behind. I turned a corner, and there it was, the old playground by the lake. In the center stood Lydia. She looked the same as the day I left her. White dress, damp hair. Her skin was pale as paper. Then she smiled at me. "You came back," she whispered. "You finally came back." Her smile widened, too far, until it split her cheeks. The fog swirled between us, and when it cleared, she wasn't Lydia anymore. Her face was gone, replaced with that same bolted metal plate. She tilted her head, and the scraping began again. I ran from the fog, but no matter which way I turned, I kept ending up back in that playground. The last thing I remember before the darkness took me was her voice, right behind my ear. "Now, you'll never leave me again." I was never supposed to go back to Silent Hill. Not after what happened to my brother. It's not like the town was on the map anymore. Not the real ones, anyway. It had been closed off for decades. The roads leading there were blocked with rustling barricades and faded hazard signs, but people still found their way in. People like me. The fog started about 10 miles out. Not the thin, morning kind. This was a dense, heavy fog, swallowing my headlights until I felt like I was driving into nothing. The road narrowed, guardrails twisted from years of neglect. Every so often, I thought I saw shapes of people in the mist, tall, thin silhouettes, standing too close to the pavement, but they never moved from what I could tell. When I finally reached the old "Welcome to Silent Hill" sign, it was hanging sideways. I parked just past it. The town was silent, except for the low humming of something electrical. Distant, constant, like a power line buzzing overhead. I walked down Main Street. Storefronts stood with their windows broken, papered over with newspapers so old they turned yellow. A rusted swing set creaked at a small park to my left. And then I heard it, the sound I felt like I had been dreading. It was a siren. It didn't start loud. It began low, like it was covered by something. But as it got louder, the air seemed to tighten, and the shadows changed. The fog shifted from white to a sickly brown, as if the air itself was burning. Paint peeled from the walls in seconds, revealing jagged, rusted metal underneath. The ground turned dark, wet, like it had been soaked in something warm. That's when I saw them. Not quite human. Skin pale and stretched. Faces blank, like wet clay. They moved with jerky, twitching motions, heads snapping too far in each direction. I ran, taking side streets, slipping on the slick pavement, trying not to look at the shapes that swayed in the alleys. Figures that moved erratically, breathed heavily, and seemed to be waiting for me to make a wrong turn. The siren cut off as suddenly as it began. The fog returned, a calm white again. The buildings back to their rotting wood and brick. And the streets were empty, with no sign of the creatures. In a panic, I made it back to my car as quickly as possible and drove away from the town until the fog thinned, until the sky had color again. When I stopped at a gas station miles away, I finally looked in the rearview mirror. Something was sitting in my back seat. Something with no face. When leaving Silent Hill, always check your back seat. I only went back because of the letter. It showed up in my mailbox 2 weeks ago. No return address. Just my name. Written in handwriting I hadn't seen in years, but I felt like I've seen it before. Inside was one sentence. You'll find me where the fog never lifts. It was signed by Emily. Emily had been my best friend growing up, practically a sister, until she vanished on a road trip in college. The police searched for months. No body, no car, just gone. The letter didn't make any sense. I knew it couldn't be real, but I drove to where she was talking about, a place called Silent Hill. The last time I had been there, I was a kid, when it was still a mining town. Now the highway into it was half blocked by rusted signs warning about unstable roads. Fog swallowed the asphalt before I could even see where I was going. I parked a car near what used to be Main Street. The air was thick, muffling every sound. Even my own footsteps sounded like they were swallowed before they hit the ground. The fog was so thick I could barely even see my own footsteps. Shops sat abandoned, broken, dust like snow over every counter. And in the distance, I heard it, faint at first, the sound of a metal door swinging in the wind. That's when I saw her. Emily. She was standing at the far end of the street, her back to me. Same long black hair, same red jacket. Emily, I called. She didn't move. I jogged towards her, but the fog thickened, curling around me until the street behind me was gone. And then she started walking, not away, not towards me, but into an alley that I swear hadn't been there a second ago. I followed her. The alley was too narrow. The walls leaned inward, giving me a sense of claustrophobia. Shadows rippled along the bricks, even though there was no light source. When I came out the other side, it wasn't Main Street anymore. It was something else. The sky had turned dark, rust-colored red. The buildings were shaped and broken in ways they shouldn't be, angles that made my eyes hurt. The windows looked like open mouths. Sirens wailed in the distance, echoing forever. And Emily was still ahead of me. She turned, finally, and smiled. But not a good smile. Her teeth were wrong. "You made it," she said. Her voice sounded like it was coming through a broken radio. "Now it can start." Behind her, something moved in the fog. Something tall, dragging metal. The sound vibrating in my teeth. Emily stepped aside, and I realized the thing in the mist was walking straight towards me. I turned to run, but the alley I'd come through was gone. The fog closed in, with the sound of metal coming straight towards me. Hey, Spooky Sooner here. Something different here, Silent Hill stories. I could make them bigger, more in depth. Let me know if you would be interested in something like that. I was inspired because I was playing Silent Hill 2 on my Steam Deck. So it was pretty fun, pretty scary. I definitely recommend it. Stuff we got coming up. I do have a story about Kisaragi Station in Japan. It's an urban legend about a train station called Devil Station. So I'm gonna have a couple stories about that. So keep a lookout for that. If you have any stories you want me to read, send them to spookysooner7964@gmail.com. Like and subscribe. That's how I get more people to see these videos. Thanks for the support. Trying to go for 500 subscribers, and we're almost there. I think we got about 40 more till we get to 500. So thanks for all the support, and stay spooky. In the center stood Lydia, and in the center stood, and in the center, and in the center, in the center. "You came back," she whispered. "You finally came back." "You came back," she whispered. "You came back. Now you'll never leave. Now you'll never leave. Now you'll never leave me again. 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 Papered. It didn't start loud. Faces blank, like wet clay. Faces blank, like. Faces blank, like. Ugh. Faces blank, like. Faces blank, like. Oh my god, why can't I say this? Faces blank, like wet clay. They moved. They moved. In a panic, I ran back to my car and drove away until the thawed. But the thawed thickened. I jogged towards her, I turned to run, but the alley I come... Shit.